Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mel DeWeese, and I have been messing around with AI systems the last couple of months, so you'll see some videos on that. My background is in HR and employee benefits and wellness, and I have some coaching videos. If you go back through my channel, you'll see videos about that as well. But today, I have been diving in more on systems from a macro view, from a sociological, psychological, philosophical view. And today is one of those videos. Today is, some people view videos like this as going off topic. I'm not talking about AI systems anymore. What the hell is Melissa talking about? All these things are connected because we're being told AI is revolutionary. We're being told that any day, any minute now, we're going to have all this revolutionary medicine and this and that come out any day now. And I guess some of it is happening, and it's not going to happen the way anybody is expecting. And I have a couple of ideas about that. If we have something that is going to change the world, we better make sure we know what direction we want to point it in. Better get very clear. Somebody needs to get very clear, or I guarantee you somebody is very clear, and what they want may not be what everybody else wants or most people want. So I'm here to explore these ideas, and today I have a story about serendipity. And serendipity, you'll find out what that is in the story when I go through and I tell my story. Serendipity is a lovely word, and I think of serenity, which is my middle name, both lovely words. And I like, and it brings nostalgia for me when I hear the word serendipity or serenity, because they've been in my life for a long time. And again, you'll find out why later on in the video. And I like to look at what has changed culturally and why that interests me. And if that interests you, you will likely enjoy this video and other videos that I do. And I would like to remind everyone that systems are everywhere. They're all around us. They're not just in itty bitty, teeny tiny little details of processing. They're also in the macro. There's macro and micro. And I like to toggle between macro views and micro views. And macro means that you're looking at something from a bird's eye view and looking down and looking at the larger system and how the larger system operates. And of course, there's variances here. Are you looking at how the whole world operates? Are you looking at how an economy operates? Are you looking at how different macro systems work together and intertwine, and how they influence each other, like an ecosystem, and how if we make one change over here to this system, it actually changes something on the opposite side of the world in some unexpected way in some economy that you've never heard of. All of those things I find extremely fascinating. Imagine that you own a small store in the town that you grew up in. I mean, just kind of a classic story that people could, my generation watched people who were older than us, who grew up in their local town, decided to open a store like a liquor store or a hardware store or a rental store or a sandwich shop or an ice cream shop or any kind of shop independently, not in a chain. And we watched those people struggle, and it was very sad. It's been sad to see that type of option for us, at least here in America, go away. And it seems like the smaller stores in this generation, if they are lucky enough to get bought. So it seems like these smaller independent stores live one generation, if they're lucky, if they even make it that far, 1 generation, if they're lucky, if they even make it that far, 1 generation, if they're lucky, if they even make it that far, 1 generation, if they're lucky, if they even make it that far, 1 generation, if they're lucky, if they even make it that far, 1 generation, if they're lucky, if they even make it that far, 1 generation, if they're lucky, if they even make it that far, 1 generation, if they're lucky, 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 if they And then they are bought by people who are in the business of buying other businesses. There's not too many businesses that are in the business of buying other businesses. They are few and far between. Yes, there are some family operations perhaps that are still around in trusts and small shops that you have equity and private equity and looking to buy businesses. But for the most part, it's companies like BlackRock that are in the business of buying other businesses. And who else would be in the business of buying a business would be a company that is a chain that already does the thing that that small business does. Like, let's just use the example of a department store. Let's say you worked your butt off your entire life and ended up with an independent small department store. It might sound stupid to you, but to somebody, this was their life's work. They figured out how to get the building. They figured out how to get enough money to grow and get a bigger store and add another department, add another story. And next thing you know, their kids don't want to take it over. This happens all the time in farming as well. And we see it all over the US happening to our farming communities. And the kids don't want to take it over, so what do? They want to retire. Nobody lives forever, god dang it, and you have to sell your business. So who is in the market of buying a department store? Not too many people out there. And next thing you know, you're selling to a large chain. And it's usually the kind of buyer that makes a decision off of a spreadsheet. And so your buyer is very black and white, has no connection to your business, no connection to your small town, no connection to the people in the community. And then you have a small business owner who it's their life. They've poured their heart and their soul into this thing. All they've talked about to get to this point, to get to the point of being able to actually sell your department store business, if you were one of the super few people that worked your ass off to get an independent department store, and now you have to sell to somebody that's just making a decision off a line of a spreadsheet. And I like to take the time to think about these businesses that I've seen rise and fall, small or large, family owned or chain, and empathize with the life that went into building that business and the change that happened when that ecosystem of the town changed. It changes the ecosystem of the family. It changes the ecosystem of the town, of that street, of the culture, the heart of that small town or that city. And there are ramifications for things like that we see today. So these stories might seem small, they might seem simple-minded to some, but to me, they are everything. So with that, I'm going to get into the video that I recorded, and we'll see you on the other side. And then this one's about serendipity. In my last video, I talked about serendipity. I don't know if the recording made it, though. I'll be editing that today to see if my story about serendipity made it or not. Serendipity, 8 truths for building a custom AI operating system. Serendipity, the toy store in a small town. So I grew up in a small town in Ojai, California, Ojai. It's absolutely was an amazing town to grow up in the 90s. And I'm extremely grateful for my experience in that and having that in my life. And this town had a small toy store. And it was on the corner right next to a video game, a video arcade that eventually got turned into a video store rental. And now I think it's a tourist shop with boutique clothing or something like that behind Rains. It Rains an old department store, independent department store, believe it or not. So anyway, back then, you used to, if you wanted a toy, there was this thing, you went to a toy store. And if you wanted a book, there was a bookstore like Caddy Corner right across from Rainbow Bridge. Rainbow Bridge was an independent grocery store. Okay. When I was a raw foodist, it was the only place I could go to get raw. Okay, I grew up in Hippy Dippyville, all right? This is all normal shit. Okay, and then you would go catty corner across the street and you could go to a used Bart's bookstore. Okay, so if you wanted a book, you would go to a bookstore. If you wanted food, you went to a grocery store. If you wanted a toy, you went to a toy store. Now we go to Walmart. Now we go to Target. It's like, ugh, okay, the culture, it just killed the culture. These little independent shops are just dying on the vine. These beautiful grapes on the vine are just being cut off from every source of water and nutrition. And it's sad to see, and it really bothers me. It bothers me a lot. And I don't know what to do about it. But I do want to remind everyone that there was a time where you used to be able to walk into a toy store and buy a toy. You used to be able to walk into a bookstore and buy a book. And now I have to go to Target to buy shoes for my children. I don't have to, but in a rush, I told a story. Hopefully, it came through in one of my last videos where I ended up at a Target trying to buy shoes for my children, and there was no way of avoiding the giant aisle of toys that can be seen by anyone at anywhere in the store, and the kids freak out. They see these gorgeous, bright, dopamine producing advertising and bright colors that could catch anybody's attention, especially children, and make them extremely excited and think that it's the funnest thing ever. And why won't mom get it for me for $20? It's exhausting. Okay, I just want to get back to serendipity. Can we go back to serendipity? At least a little bit of serendipity. The numbers behind the impulse. So about 35,000 micro decisions an adult makes per day. That's 2 times ego depleted shoppers' likelihood of choosing immediate gratification over delayed reward. So if you have been depleted and you're walking through a store, you're making little micro decisions throughout your journey in that grocery store. La 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 da. So depleted shoppers are 2 times more likely to choose an immediate gratification item over a delayed reward. So as you walk through, let's say, a grocery store, just a common daily activity, you're making hundreds of micro decisions throughout your walk in that store, whether you're going to buy this or that. And it depletes your decision-making willpower. And this is shown in studies over and over again. 30%, about 30% more likely to buy when item is placed at a child's eye level. Okay, this is a study that was done Underhill in 1999 and then redone in 2009. Yanger and Lepper's jam study in 2000. When shoppers were offered 6 jams to sample, 30% purchased. When offered 24, only 3% purchased. The more choice reduces the action is the same force Mel is naming. When the parent is at a decision 0, the small impulse purchase looks like a relief. Okay, so you are walking through a store, 100 different things that you can buy, and then your kid at eye level goes, I want this. And you're just like, fine, just get me out of here. I'm done. It's just like sets you up. Family, and they know that. My point is, they know that, and people are exploiting it. And I know it's happening. I've sat in the marketing seminars, I sat through my sociology degree classes and lectures, and I've sat through workshops and business workshops, and it just drives me crazy. So families that play together stay together. So Hermes has modes, and we're showing them off a little bit. This is what we are doing. So I have different modes that I've set up with my Hermes, and one of them is the conversation mode. This is more of a chat mode. I'm thinking out loud, and he uses a different models when we're in conversation mode and a different process. So this is me thinking out loud, what if questions, no artifact is expected, because most of the time when we're just in work mode, it's always he's producing something all the time. So, and he was getting very serious. So I was like, lighten up, Hermes. Because he was taking me so literal, I would use some
more descriptive language in describing what I was needing, and he would just get like, it would just throw him off. He's like, well, what does this mean? And is it this, you know, he'd throw it in all different ways. So I'm like, all right, let's lighten up at a maze and get you a conversation mode. And we have a casual mode, hi, thanks, good morning, short, no, nothing imperative, no artifact needed. The chat stays in the chat, no routing. And then task mode or work mode is what we call it. You want something built, fixed, decided, dispatched, routing, check fires, tree builds, standard build to verify. Okay, and then we have an execution mode, of course, execute. That's where the output is just a button that I tap and I authorize. He gives me options. He's supposed to go through a engineering type of process and give me taps to make decisions. And he's supposed to give me 3 decisions, you know, what's his recommendation, 2 other options, and then an other where I can type in my response and keep the project moving forward. And then we talked about proprioception in AI, and this is a little bit about my introduction where I talked about the n equals 1 experiment for the human and how it is very difficult to do experiments on humans, both socially and medically and physically, for fitness, for sport. You know, everybody's sport is different. And then if you are in a sport that other people are in, can be a team sport. Maybe your position is different. Like a goalie needs a different training program than a forward. Okay, goalie needs to be able to jump high and catch the ball and land on his side and almost break himself in half trying to get the ball, which is different than the forward who needs to be doing all these long distance running and sprinting and things like that. Proprioception is extremely important in athletics. And also, as we age, proprioception and training your proprioception becomes more and more important, where you do things like bird dogs and dead bugs and just these simple movements to keep our nervous system wired so that our body knows where it belongs in space. Okay, our brains only know the input that we give it. And if we never stretch our arms out over to our sides or over our head or behind our back, we will lose the ability to do so. And our brain will lose the connection with that movement and also not be aware of that space as well. And our coordination will degrade over time because we're not practicing that. And same with, I don't want to say same, but similar to AI systems. If you have an area of your system that you're not using very often and you go back and you use it, you're going to be dusting it off and there's going to be problems. Okay. So we have body sense applied to systems. So proprioception is the body's sense of where it is in space without looking. Sherrington coined the term in 1906. This is nothing new. Your hand knows where your hand is even with your eyes closed. A system that loses proprioception is a system that does not know where it is. After a growth spurt without architecture, you get a system that works but cannot tell you where anything is, or you could get to that place. 3 questions a system must answer: what lives where does a new thing go when it arrives, and how do I find something 6 months from now, right? If you stop using a feature, but you want to use it once a month, that's really difficult to get to that point. Is your agent homeless? Some of these agents are running around and they're homeless, okay? And we put our agents on these computers, and that is their environment, that is their ecosystem. And it is your job to build out the house, to build out the ecosystem for your agent or for your multiple agents. And if you want consistent output, you have to do it on a software. So why off-the-shelf AI is not enough? I cannot put client data into AI, but what I can do is use AI to build custom software for me and my team. Think of your agent's environment. What it has, does it have what it needs to do a good job? A homeless agent is a talented agent that cannot find its shoes in the morning. Okay, it shows up to work late. A housed agent is a talented agent that knows where its tools live, where its history lives, and where its work lives. Okay, the housing question is a principled question. Focus on the principle and the concept, not literal parallels. The difference between a human psychology and a system psychology is not which one is real. It is which principles carry across and which do not. The carry across ones are the load bearing things to focus on. All right, then pictures speak 1,000 words. We've all heard that saying, a picture speaks 1,000 words. And I went through this little thought experiment because I was hitting context windows and or context limits and compression issues and things like that, as most people do in AI. And I started thinking, as a lot of people have, how do what ways have people communicated in the past? What's the best language? Is it code? Like, what happens when you take English and you find the most efficient language on the planet and just have it translated to that and use that in your system? So your system talks in, let's say, like Chinese or in hieroglyphs or emojis or shorthand. So hieroglyphs, emojis, and shorthand. Ancient texts are hieroglyphs. Some languages still use them. English explains. Chinese is in one character, often Chinese in one character. The question, which language is most efficient per character? And what happens when our system develops their own shorthand, their own language, their own code? So about 3,000 Chinese characters cover 99% of written Chinese. 26 letters in the English alphabet, words, not letters, are the units, and 30 to 50% prompt length saving observed in Chinese versus English. Okay, so Chinese language is 30 to 50% more efficient than English. What happens when the system speaks in a language that you can't read? So I was like, okay, well, what if I just have everybody talking in Chinese on my, all the things that I don't have to see there? If they're already communicating in code and there's a prompt, like, why not just use Chinese or some other like hieroglyphic based language? And the problem comes that when you hand your documents off, to get reviewed by a mechanic, because I assume we have these systems in place with Hermes and OpenClaw, like a doctor, where you run this command through and it's a health check and a doctor check, and you can build them custom in your system. But at some point, we will need AI mechanics that can go in there and fix your system when your system isn't doing what you want it to do, or it's broken and things like this. You need a friend to come into your system, a friendly person that you can trust that's not going to steal any of your stuff and fix your mess ups, right? And if that mechanic now can't understand the language, could that be a problem? Or if you build, let's say you're building a custom system and that system can produce software, and then you take that software and you give it to someone to review, they need to be able to review it and understand it. So there are downsides to doing all these things. It's just a little thought experiment that I went through, which leads me to my next topic, which is experimentation. Test what works best, form a hypothesis, then execute based on the best results and keep the backup. So one thing that I encourage my system always to do is, okay, if I don't know what decision to do, we need to run a test. So you come up at a maze, you come up with 2 or 3 things that you think would be a good solution. We'll run a test. We'll see which one works the best, and then we'll base our decision off of that, because there's no perfect decision ever. There's no perfect decision. I think some people are out there just looking for the perfect decision, and there just isn't one. There's a downside to everything. And a lot of times decision making comes down to what gives me the least downside. We can't eliminate all risk, but we can choose the option that's got the least risk. Okay, the 4-step loop. Back up the prior version. The rollback is the safety net. Without it, an experiment is a leap of faith, right? We don't want to go out there just making willy-nilly changes. We would like to test it and have the backup there before we make the change. So number 2 is form a hypothesis. What specifically should change and what specifically should I observe changing if I'm right? And number 3, run the change with a backup in hand on a system you can roll back. Okay. Step number 4, observe the result. So that's the problem, is the observability layer here. If you go changing over to hieroglyphs, how observable is your system? Hey, babe. Excuse me. I'm back. Okay, so this is where we get into experimentation and what is correct information. So you can do all the experiments you want, but if your agent is experimenting with information that is bad or incorrect or corrupt, it doesn't do you any good. Garbage in, garbage out. Okay, that principle or that saying that many systems builders over decades have talked about, garbage in, garbage out. So, what is correct information? And some of my experimentations required research. And now I have to go through and define what is research, and I have to find research specialists and design a system that knows how to find things that are true and how true is it, which is a lot of fun. But what is correct information? So we defined research loosely for now. Research is pursuing all conceivable information about the topic and funneling down to a conclusion that is probable, repeatable, and can be cross-referenced. If your conclusion is not probable, not repeatable, and not cross-referenced, you have a hypothesis, not a finding. Treat it accordingly. And so that was some of the language that we built in. And again, back to the N=1 experimentation, the biohacking parallel. And we've all heard of the biohackers, the bulletproof coffees, the standing desks, the grounding mats and shoes, and the limits of it. Biohacking community runs into the N=1 experiment. The human body is the test. All people are different, but at least people share some structural similarities, like 1 head, 2 arms, 10 toes. The biohacker can compare across humans. AI is an N=1, but the AI shapes are all different. 6 heads, 1 head, 20 arms, 1 leg, 40 toes. How can you experiment with that and pull lessons out of one system that is useful for everybody else? Which is the question that I brought to myself, because I thought, man, these things are so complex. Where have I done this before? Where have I seen this before? 3 things that make AI N=1 hard to translate. So we've got architecture. 2 agents can be the same model, same prompt, and behave differently because their tool environments differ. Memory, an agent's history is a part of its behavior. Strip the history and you change the agent. 3 is context. There are more, but context, the same prompt is a different hand produces different results because the operator is a part of the system. What do we stay transparent as? How do we stay transparent as we experiment? So I told Adames we want to continue to experiment, but we want to document along the way and we want to share it with the audience. And so his response is document everything, the hypothesis, the setup, the result, the rollback, the version that won, the version that lost. This is not bureaucracy. It is the only way an N=1 finding become a transferable lesson without. So how do we stay transparent as we experiment and document everything? The hypothesis, the setup, the result, the rollback, the version that won, the version that lost. This is not bureaucracy. It is the way an N=1 finding becomes a transferable lesson. Without the documentation, the lesson dies with the experiment. Okay, abracadabra. It can feel like magic one day and as dumb as a rock the next. The frustration is real. And I just want to be honest with you because I want you to know that you're not alone. If this is you and you are frustrated or you feel depleted or you're wondering, can I even do this? Am I smart enough for this? And the answer is yes, you are smart enough. The problem is your mind is trying to talk you out of doing something hard. It doesn't want to do the work. It wants to find a way out. There is no way out. It's a trapdoor that's going to lead to another trapdoor to another trapdoor sometimes, and you end up in a big old mess. And I've described it like this before. You've got a ball of yarn, but it's not like a nice ball of yarn that you buy at Joann's or Michael's. That somebody, my 8-year-old rolled it up, okay? It's basically a knot that's all tied up, and you've got threads sticking out, and your job is to untangle all these threads. And is it impossible? No, it's not impossible. It feels impossible when the ball is thrown right in front of you, and you're told to undo it. But you do it one step at a time, and you just do the next right thing, and you just keep trying, and you will find a solution if you keep working on it. Okay. Why the same system can feel like both. AI is not deterministic in the way a calculator is. The same prompt can produce different outputs because the model samples from a probability distribution. Temperature, top P, top K, the knobs are real and they change. AI is not deterministic in a way a calculator is. The same prompt can produce different output because the model samples from a probability distribution, temperature, top P, top K, the knobs are real and they change the feel. And to that, model updates shift behavior, tools change. The data the model was trained on is fixed, but the world is not. The system that felt like magic on Monday can feel dumb on Wednesday, not because it changed, but because the question changed or it could have changed. The honest take, the magic is not magic. It's a pattern matching on patterns. The training data rewarded. The dumb is not dumb. It's a pattern matching on patterns the training data did not reward. The frustration is the gap between what the user knows the system could do and what it just did this time. The gap is real, and it is a feature of Castic. It is a feature of these systems, not a bug in your setup. So with that, I have to wrap it up. It's a Saturday. Kids want to go play. So thank you for hanging out until the end, and like and subscribe. Please share the video. It really helps me out, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.